One could be Britain's next prime minister, the other the niece of a slain civil rights leader. So two very, very different people, but one very common theme. Hi, everyone. Glad to have you. I'm Neil Cavuto, and I want you to listen to what British politician Nigel Farage and Alveda King told me lies at the core of this ISIS crisis. The reason why this terrorist group is so good at not only terrorizing, but recruiting in Britain, in America, in places you'd least suspect. And it has nothing to do with all of ISIS's money, but something else. Listen. Why do and have so many Brits joined ISIS?
We've seen increased radicalisation within the United Kingdom. Much of this, I'm afraid to say, is a self-inflicted wound. We've had 4 decades of state-sponsored multiculturalism. We've actually encouraged people not to come together and to be British, but to live separately, to live apart. We even had
kind of like what we're doing here.
Yes. No, there are similarities. We even had the Archbishop of Canterbury suggesting that Sharia law would be acceptable in British cities. So I'm afraid we have been weak, and we have not been muscular in standing up and saying to people, we are a Christian country. We have a Christian constitution, a Judeo-Christian culture. We've allowed our schools to be infiltrated. Our prisons, you know, are now perhaps where jihadism is on the march more rapidly than anywhere else. Much of this we've done to ourselves.
To have the leader of our country at one point say, well, we're no longer a Christian nation. And I'm noticing now that in all the reports, when we're hearing from the White House, we're hearing various answers. But where is the righteous indignation? Where is the charitable answer? What about the Geneva Convention? So are all rules gone now? And then do we pontificate about, well, we've done some strikes and we're having conversations, and yet young men are being killed and beheaded before our very eyes, American young men.
So think of it, on this business show, that we've been so focused on what economically tempts those to join ISIS, that we lose sight of the fact that maybe we're losing our Judeo-Christian core, that this move toward multiculturalism is what could be explaining all of this, and ISIS's ample recruitment efforts. To Ben Stein, Charles Payne, Dagan McDowell, along with Adam Lashinsky and Charlie Gasparino. Charles Payne, what do you think of that?
You know, in America, it's dangerous ground to say multiculturalism, because I think it means something different. But I think that if you said it was unfeathered multiculturalism, in the sense that these Western nations around the world, particularly Europe, but obviously in America too, we've welcomed poor people from around the world with open arms, with the promise of coming here, getting a lot of free stuff, and not having to do anything for it, not having to learn the language, not having to assimilate in any form or fashion. And as they stay here longer, they expect more and more and more. And after a while, we can't even afford to give it to them. And then there's resentment. Then there's this sort of these cesspools of anger, so where someone will actually leave these countries and go and fight for a terror group like ISIS. So in that respect, I think we're luckier, I think, than Europe, because at least we do share Christian values with the majority of the people coming here legally and illegally. I think Europe is in a world of hurt. I mean, a world of hurt that's going to be ugly over the next several years.
You know, Charlie Gasparino, we are all product immigrants, right? And I think what both were saying, from very different political perspectives, is that we're not assimilating,
right?
And that in a multicultural society is what makes this one today different from the one, let's say, your dad and grandparents grew up in. What do you think?
And we are slowly becoming what happened in Yugoslavia when it broke up to be Bosnia and Herzegovina and ethnic cleansing. And I will say this, it does rub me the wrong way when I hear people, very smart people, talk about us being a Christian nation. I don't like that. I mean, I know what the founding...
Well, Judeo-Christian.
We should be a nation of one. People should be whatever they want to be, whatever religion they want to be. But here's the problem.
But I think I want to be careful what both said.
Right.
That they dropped that entirely for everything under the map.
It clouds the issue. What we have here is, for many years, we had a defining characteristic. We were the melting pot. My grandparents and great-grandparents had to come here, had to learn English, had to be American. We've turned that into multiculturalism. Who forced that upon American school systems? Because kids learn this right in high school and they're preached to it in college. Well, it's the intelligentsia from the left who basically changed the culture back in the 60s, and it continues today. By the way, to speak out against multiculturalism on a college campus is to basically have your head handed.
You're racist in that.
Yes.
But what Britain is dealing with in terms of what Farage was talking about, also Germany, is something altogether different that we don't really see here in the United States, not to this extreme, where you have ethnic groups that are completely isolated. Turkish immigrants in Germany, Muslims in Britain, where they have signed off on bad behavior that is opposite of their values.
They come and they stick to their own knitting, maybe like Italian Americans did, or Irish Americans, or whatever. But they never break away from that. They never become part of that.
They never become part of the national community and the national society and the secular society.
But
Italian Americans were different.
Don't start defending your people. Ben Stein, what do you make of that?
Well, multiculturalism is poison. Multiculturalism is poison in the bloodstream of America. And let's call a spade a spade. This is not just people coming from anywhere. This is mostly Muslim, Arab, immigrant militants who do not sign on to America as serving a God of love, who do not sign on to America as being a people of toleration, and people who march forward together under the banner of the God of love, whether it's Jewish, Muslim, or Christian. We are taking into this country people who basically hate America. Why are we taking into this country people who basically hate America? The ones who come over the border from Mexico, they love America. The ones who are coming in from the Middle East and from Muslim countries, not all of them by any means, but a lot of them hate America, and they don't want to be integrated. They want to destroy America. We are taking into America cancerous immigrants who are going to kill us.
Adam.
So, Ben, I think you undid your own argument when you said not all of them by any means. I would turn that around and say not only not all of them, but not most of them. Sure, we have troublemakers. There will always be troublemakers in any group.
Adam,
I just want to say very quickly, the Founding Fathers anticipated this conversation. Yes, we've been a country of Judeo-Christian values, and will continue to be. Well, the Founding Fathers anticipated this and set up a system where we could bring in all kinds of people, and it's working.
And assimilate. The Founding Fathers envisioned a system of a melting pot. That's what they envisioned. They did not envision multiculturalism. Right.
See, that's a very important distinction, right? But Ben just mentioned something very important, where we all become one. And that's lost, Charles Penn.
That is lost, although not as much in America. I mean, again, what we're looking at is a powder keg.
We still have traditions.
We do have traditions, and
for now.
You know what? I think America still is an amazing model for how it's done. And I think the mistake that Europe made was allowing these people to come in, erect their own communities, put up satellite TV so they only get news from the homeland, never learn the language, never have any responsibility.
What do you think's happening when Farage talks about...
immigrants have always done that.
No, but I'm talking
but Charles,
generation after generation.
Farage was talking about the 1,000-plus Britons who've joined ISIS.
Yes.
What
those
would make
those
one...
are not descendants of Winston Churchill.
I understand, but what makes them do that?
Those are Arabs.
They're not all Arabs. They're not all.
They came here with they came mostly to those countries with a chip on their shoulder. All right, they left a broken country where they already blamed the countries. Let me just finish 1 second, Charles.
They're isolated from the rest of society.
Let Charles finish his point. Go ahead.
They already blamed colonialism and the West before they left their homeland to go there, and they more or less are infiltrating and waiting for their moment to get even.
What allows it to foment in society? It is there's an intellectual basis.
Not calling it out.
It's the intellectuals in the colleges that permeate through high schools who force this bizarre, disgusting theory, as Ben Stein so rightly said, upon kids, and it infiltrates the culture. I will say this: why isn't it as bad here as in Britain? Because you know what? There's a debate. We have Fox News. We have people. We have the First Amendment. We fight back. We add to the debate. There is no intellectual debate in Britain about multiculturalism rare. That what you just saw there.
Well, because what happens is people will take clips of this segment, this show. I guarantee you. And they will start saying the racist segment on.
Oh yes,
it's not just it's not a problem of immigration. It's how you assimilate those immigrants into your society. How do you handle the immigrants once they're in your nation? And
why bring them in the first place?
Let me finish my thought, please.
I beg your pardon.
I've been gone.
I beg your pardon.
A lot of the immigrants, to your point, Ben, from Mexico, Central and South America, they share our values. They share our Judeo-Christian values.
We have some of that problem.
We are going to have a problem in terms of we do need to be concerned about people not assimilating.
But think about what you're all saying, guys, together
English.
at different times and sometimes to save time over each other, which I appreciate. But Ben Stein, one of what they're saying is this, that if you hear it from the niece of Martin Luther King, if you hear it from someone who some people think could be the next Prime Minister of Britain, what they're saying is this, that this keeps going. You are finding the means by which to recruit bad guys the world over to do bad things, to corrupt the very systems they've become a part. What do you make of that?
The anti-Christian Muslim fundamentalist immigrants are cancer in the bloodstream of America. It's that simple, and it's going to kill us if we don't somehow get control of it.
All right. On that very happy note, we're going to take a break.